Within the last week, I watched every Fast and Furious movie for the first time. All of them from the very small scale first one all the way up to the 10th one where we see Dom Toretto yeet his Dodge Charger off the Hoover Dam. Over the last week though, I've been on a spiritual journey going through all the highs and lows of this franchise. This is truly one of the most bonkers and ridiculous franchises that Hollywood has, and it is absolutely fascinating to look back on it as a whole. It started off as this little Point Break ripoff, but now it has crazy action, absolutely bonker characters, and some of the most insane action scenes that have ever been put to film now, and it somehow also has a deathly serious story that has been somehow building and constantly reincorporating characters from every movie. All of it has led to this Frankenstein monster of a franchise that I now have a soft spot for, and I want to take you back on my journey of what it was like for me to watch all of these movies in a week for the first time. So let's get started with the first one, The Fast and the Furious. The Fast and the Furious is actually a pretty decent time. The movie starts out the entire franchise, and it's about undercover cop Brian O'Connor, played by Paul Walker, as he goes undercover into the street racing world, falling in love with a girl who's the sister of the infamous racer Dom Toretto. And then he has to deal with the pain of who's gonna betray him, and it's so sad. He's so sorry, Dom. It's super cheesy, but it adds to the super sincere tone that this franchise thrives on. Right off the bat, we realize these movies treat themselves and these characters super seriously. Not completely in tone, but just with what's happening. It treats it as everything is really happening, and that this makeshift family does truly love each other. And that goofy tone and these fun characters and genuinely good heist scenes at the beginning and end do make this a pretty decent movie. It's just a charming little 2000s racing movie, and overall it's kind of alright. Sure, it lags in the middle and not all of it works, but this is a pretty decent racing movie about Paul Walker sort of falling in love with Dom Toretto, and I give this beautiful love story 5 Coronas out of 10. Too Fast, Too Furious could have been the most 2000s movie of all time if it had come out in 2002. Imagine, Too Fast, Too Furious, 2002, and it could have came out on the 22nd of February since that was a Friday. 2002, Too Fast, Too Furious, come on, you know that would have been amazing. Too Fast, Too Furious though is a big, fun, messy movie that is kind of a step down from the first. It dumps Dom and instead only goes with Brian as he meets his new best friend Tyrese. It no longer has the sincerity of the first one, instead going for a slicker cop style movie with insane races, more espionage focused plot, and even more straight up bonkers scenes. This movie is the first scene in the series where you just look back and go, well, okay. A lot of people ask what was the first thing that really showed where the Fast and Furious franchise went off the rails, and I think it's in this movie when Brian realizes, oh no, the villain is getting away on a boat, and he proceeds to get in his car, drive full speed, jump the car over the lake, and land on the boat. You just sit there in awe as he gets out of the car with no damage, and there's nothing to say. It's ridiculous and hilarious, and almost as funny as the actual lines in the movie.
So forget about it, cuz.
And while this is an incredibly fun movie to watch at parts, it isn't a very good overall movie. Everyone other than Brian and Tyrese are extremely boring, and everything with the actual story is confused and muddled. As an actual movie, this isn't very good, but it still has more fun moments in it than the first movie, even if that first movie is a much more consistent film overall. Still, this movie is a fun mess, and I just like watching it for every time Paul Walker cracks one of his goofy smiles, and I give Too Fast, Too Furious 4 Paul Walkers out of 10. Next up, Polar Express Drift. I hate this movie. I'm not gonna explain why. 1 out of 10. Next up is Fast 4, or as it's known, Fast and Furious. That's the name? Oh my gosh, I'm so confused. So Fast and Furious is easily the most forgettable one. I don't really remember what happens in this movie other than this shot. I really like this introduction, but that's about all I can remember from this movie. I do remember it bringing the entire new crew together that we'll see for the rest of the franchise with all the characters coming back, but other than that, nothing really happened other than Michelle Rodriguez getting capped in the first scene. This one is whatever, I don't really remember it at all. Let's go on to the one where Vin Diesel uses a bank safe as a whip. 4 dead Michelle Rodriguez is out of 10. Now Fast 5 is where the franchise really gets cooking. First off the bat, the best thing this movie does is from shifting from a car racing plot to more of a spy film type of plot. It allows the family to go on bigger adventures and really allows the franchise to do more things than the usual talk, street, race, end credits. And that new type of globetrotting story allows the franchise to introduce the shot to the arm the franchise desperately needed. Luke Hobbs, played by The Rock. He is the most charismatic character in these movies until Hobbs and Shaw, where The Rock just deforms to acting like himself. But here though, he is this raging lunatic that is all about stopping the family. He says the most insane quotes in this movie, he's absolutely jacked, he's sweating always, and he is easily the best villain in this franchise. He's always at 11 and is just great. He hates these people with a passion, and that is Luke Hobbs at his ultimate potential. And the movie is just a blast. It's a huge bank heist movie that feels like if Ocean's 11 was mixed with a Mountain Dew Voltage. And it's just just a good time. You have them using a bank safe as a whip, like I can't really complain about this. This is amazing. You also have Dom using his car like it's a superpower and just throwing it at random. I just like this movie a lot, and I give this movie 6 rocks out of 10. Fast and Furious 6, or as it's just known in the credits, Furious 6, is a pretty decent Fast and Furious movie. For the first half of it, it's a boring spy movie about one of the most boring villains in the franchise, Luke Wilson, as he tries to do something important. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember what he's doing, and I don't remember a single thing that happened in the first half of this movie. All I do remember is he drives a car that kind of looks like the Lab Rats car that Davenport made, and it's just a pretty boring movie until this scene happens. Okay, you have my interest again, because what was that? Then you have the third act kick in, and it's actually amazing. You have the family attacking a huge plane with just their cars. You have The Rock and Vin Diesel pulling off combo moves. Stuff like this is happening, and this. It's just hilarious, and I absolutely love the third act. It is so good. The rest of the movie, though, is not what it's hyped up to be. Fast 6 feels like this hiccup between 5 and 7, but overall, it's alright. I give it 5 Vin Diesel headbutts out of 10. Next up, though, is Furious 7. This is the best one. I don't think it's up for debate. This is where the franchise reaches its full potential. It brings in James Wan as the director, it brings back the entire cast, and decides to have the most rip-roaring time out of any of these movies. Logic is gone, but here the lack of logic is used to create the most fun action scenes. Cars are getting dropped out of a plane, cars are jumping from building to building, and you also have cars doing the most insane things, along with Vin Diesel fighting Jason Statham with random wrenches and poles. This is amazing. All of that here leads to one of the most fun action movies I've seen in a while, and one of the greatest third acts I've ever seen.
Daddy's gotta go to work.
Oh, I love this movie so much. The action here is great, and the story always serves the crazy set pieces by using the story to add new characters who will only add entertainment value as well. Here we got Kurt Russell as a new shady-ish government guy who's also a dual-wielding pistol expert. What? Jason Statham is also the new villain, one of the best runners at the beginning of the movie. You also have Ronda Rousey. What is happening? I love this. The entire movie is just like this, always asking what is the most fun thing to do in the scene and nailing it. It perfectly encapsulates the pure dumb fun these movies achieve at their highest power. If it's not fun, it's getting thrown out. Gravity, human injury, these are not fun things. So the movie removes them so we can have scenes like this. And through all of that craziness, it also ends up having a perfect send-off to Paul Walker with an incredibly cheesy but heartfelt montage that only Fast and Furious could pull off. I love this movie. I think this is a blast and easily the best Fast and Furious movie. So I'm gonna give Furious 7 red Lamborghinis out of 10. Next up is Fate of the Furious, and I am not a fan of this one. Did someone forget to tell the crew that these movies are supposed to be fun? This movie, coming off the heels of Furious 7, was a movie I was so hyped for in this binge. It had returning favorites like Hobbs and Shaw. It also had crazy ice action and apparently a darker, more interesting plot. Or at least that's what I thought going into it. But this movie ends up completely forgetting what made the franchise so fun and falling back on its previous mistakes that previous movies like Fast and Furious 4 did. It takes itself deathly seriously and completely kills the fun winking tone and instead decides to go for a hard drama of Dom Toretto betraying his family. Problem is though, Dom is an objectively awful character with no motivation. The only reason he works in the other movies is because he is this sincere dumb idiot who just protects everyone he knows. But inner conflict, no, Dom was not built for that, and neither is this story. It's this boring, drawn-out spy movie without the heart of the last 3 good ones. That said, while I don't like this movie, it still has some bright spots. I love how The Rock coaches a soccer team early in the movie. Also, this movie is one of my favorite action scenes where Jason Statham has a fight scene while holding a baby. Then we get a point of view shot where we are the baby and Jason Statham is holding us, and it is so bizarre and weird, and I wish the entire movie was like that. But F8, or Fate of the Furious, is just a big disappointment and not that fun. I give it 4 nuclear bombs out of 10. Then we have Hobbs and Shaw next, which completely sucks balls, or if I gotta translate it to all the British people out there, bollocks. I had to watch this movie in 4 separate sittings because I fell asleep the first 3 times I tried to get through this movie, which is actually impressive due to how loud and obnoxious this movie's camera work, editing, and performances are. Yet I think my brain went, no, this is too much, and just shut down. The idea of having a spin-off franchise due to The Rock's humongous ego is already dumb enough, but when he completely phones in his character, it makes it so much worse. Hobbs from Fast 5 has only gotten worse, with him slowly morphing back from crazy lunatic weirdo back into just normal Dwayne Johnson, and that is the worst thing he could ever be. Oh look, he's eating 20 pancakes just like he does in his Instagram. Oh look, there's Kevin Hart from Jumanji. It sucks, and it's so obnoxious, and that's what the entire movie feels like. I guess I like Jason Statham and Vanessa Kirby in this, they're decent, but The Rock's ego just ends up tanking making the absolute rest of the movie. And it sucks because The Rock was the shot of adrenaline the franchise needed, but now he is worn off and left this spin-off franchise tired and dead, only one entry in. Do not make a sequel to Hobbs and Shaw. Anyways, I give this stupid movie 3 Dwayne Johnson foreheads out of 10. F9 is a blast. I really like this movie because first off, we have the return of the king, Justin Lin, as he returns to this franchise after a 3-film hiatus, and he brings direction to this franchise that it desperately lacked. He looked at all the boring stuff from Fast 8 and went, no, get that out of here. Instead, we're gonna go full balls to the wall action and creative ideas. So huge magnets are now in cars. We also have rockets on top of cars that we shoot into space. We also have Dom Toretto's brother. Somehow he's played by John Cena, even though they are completely different ethnicities, yet it's explained by the Torettos having a Nordic strain in their DNA. It's using the Furious 7 idea of, if logic is holding us back, we're going to ignore it. So the lore is thrown out, Han is back, gravity is not even a question anymore, magnets that can catch cars are now in full effect, and all of that is used to just make a really fun movie. It's just a dumb movie of Dom Toretto fighting his brother who's a different race while they shoot cars into space. It's very fun, it's very dumb, and it's an absolute blast, but I just cannot give it any higher than 6 John Cenas out of 10, because it is just so dumb. And the last movie that I saw in this binge was Fast X. And man, what a movie this is. It's the beginning of the end, as it's the first part of a 3-part finale, and it's a huge mess. Like seriously, I have not seen a screenplay this messy in a while, but all of it's held together by some very fun performances, the main one being Jason Momoa as the villain. There has not been a villain in this franchise that has come close to rivaling Luke Hobbs in Fast 5, but Jason Momoa here is a very fun villain. He's this energetic weirdo, and that going against the stone-faced Vin Diesel who couldn't emote to save his life is the funniest juxtaposition. This movie is a huge mess on every front. You have our entire crew split up all over the globe, tons of characters coming back, and it makes absolutely no sense, but what we do have are scenes where Dom Toretto drives his car off a dam, and that is basically all I want from these movies, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, so while it's a bizarre mess, I still kind of liked Fast X. But like, it's not that good of a movie, so I'm gonna give Fast X 5 Aquamans out of 10. And I did it. The road is slowly coming to an end as I'd have to reflect on this Fast and Furious franchise and how over the last week I binged it all and if it was worth it. So you're probably wondering, should I watch this franchise if I haven't seen it before? And probably not. You guys can probably skip it. So if you do want to check out any of these movies, I made a list though, the ultimate list from a Fast and Furious expert on ranking all of these movies from the worst to the best. So let's get the list started. Last place, Tokyo Drift, awful movie. Number 10, Hobbs and Shaw, bad, not funny. Number 9, Fate of the Furious, boring, too serious. Number 8, Fast and Furious. I do not remember what happened in this movie. Number 7, Too Fast, Too Furious. Paul Walker and Tyrese, good. Rest of movie, bad. Number 6, Fast X. It's like a bunch of melted Skittles. Number 5, The Fast and the Furious. They almost kill one of their best friends for a DVD player. Number 4, Fast and Furious 6. I like the airplane ending. Number 3, F9. I like space cars. Number 2, Fast 5. I like the bank whip. And number 1, Furious 7, because I like cars that can fly. And that is what I thought of the Fast and Furious franchise. Let me know what your thoughts are down below, and I have some cool videos coming out, especially in the summertime. I will be covering a lot of games and shows, so stay tuned. Anyways, don't drink and drive unless it's Corona. See you later.